The North Central College football program has risen to levels of success under head coach John Thorne that make it hard to imagine a time when NCC wasn't competitive every year. The Cardinals struggled for a long time before Thorne arrived in 2002. They hadn't won a conference title since 1960, and they had never played in the postseason.
Periodically would have a winning season, but there was about 20 years of my time here in those first 20 years that there was a lot of struggles. It's mostly a running game, which we had been for years, maybe 20 years. And so there's just a lack of excitement and lack of success, which also made it then hard to recruit students, hard to recruit student athletes, hard to develop a following in the Naperville community, let alone the alumni base.
When we were looking to hire and change the head coaching position at the time, we didn't know, and you wouldn't know exactly what you're going to get, And so when the day's said and done, to have struck gold, if you will, and to get a coach like Coach Thorne, and to see how he incrementally got our program to the point where now we have won 8 or parts of 8, a co-champion, 8 in a row, which tied Augustana for the all-time CCIW record. And it's great for the college in general, and certainly for the athletic department.
It was the opportunity to think, okay, now how can we take this program to another level? And being the VP for advancement, I was very interested in having a successful football program because that would have such an impact on our alumni and such an impact on the Naperville community.
John Thorne finishes his head coaching career without a losing season on his record, but the Cardinals didn't immediately compete for conference titles when he took the job. The first CCIW championship came in 2006, a team led by the most prolific passer in school history, Cam Kness.
When we turned the corner a little bit, we've always had good individuals, but Cam Kness, I remember from the day he walked in, he started every game as a freshman quarterback. He had a presence about himself, and it wasn't necessarily the physical, it was the leadership.
I was pretty much set that I knew that I was going to go play Division III. And in fact, though, as heading into my senior year, I was pretty much set on going to Illinois Wesleyan, coincidentally. You knew that, while he'd only had a half a season of recruiting, the coaches that he surrounded himself and just his presence was going to lead to a lot of great things. And so I was pretty much set right then and there after my first visit.
And in this community, they were just a buzz. And I remember John saying to the first time that we all met with the quarterback club, which wasn't that big at that time, but says he goes, I just want things to be fun. I want people to come and just really have fun. We're going to throw the ball. We're going to be exciting. We're going to go for it on 4th down, even if we're in our own zone. And we're just going to make this fun. We're going to make it that people want to come to our games. We're going to make it so our players want to really play and love coming to practice. And that all happened.
My sophomore year very well could have been the year that we went to the playoffs for the first time. A couple things didn't go our way. But for right or wrong, you got to learn how to win close ball games, and I think not just as creating a winning mentality at the collegiate level with the players. It's I think the coaches would agree that they learned some things about how to manage in tough, difficult games down the stretch, in Division III.
The first time we got in the playoffs was very meaningful because that was kind of like the next step. You won conference, and now you're in the playoffs. 7
wins would be heaven, and then 8 would be great, and we're just trying. He knew we weren't going to go to 10-0. We had to build and take the right steps along the way.
There's a lot of pride that we were part of the group that kind of cultivated the change, and not only did we win some football games when we were there, and you talk about cultivating change, I feel like we installed a culture that was continued to be passed down basically to everybody that's here today. There's a lot of very, very prideful alums that are very happy with where the program's at today, and certainly none of it would have been even started had a guy like Coach Thorne never showed up on campus.
Every year under Thorne helped take the program even further into the national spotlight, including a perfect regular season in 2008. But perhaps the first time the Cardinals put the country on notice was in the 2010 playoffs. An undefeated North Central team squared off with perennial powerhouse Wisconsin Whitewater.
2008 was a great regular season for us. Obviously, it was very disappointing that we couldn't finish it out like we did or like we wanted to. But then 2009, yeah, we had some injuries occur. It's unfortunate, but I guess I was lucky and I got to come back. And there's really no doubt in my mind that I wanted to come back right away. Just because of how much I enjoyed the program, the coaches. I knew I wanted to finish out here. Not only finish my career, but also finish it for the coaching staff as well.
Another big moment was when Whitewater came here, and we were, kind of both rated, right up there, top 4, I think, in the country, and there was some dispute of whether, Whitewater we should be going there for a game, but we were actually ranked ahead of them. And
it was the first time that we'd ever been to the third round of the playoffs, and I can't remember. I think Whitewater, I don't know if they'd won it the previous year, but obviously they're a perennial power, and we were right there with them. A couple of things maybe go our way, and we win the game. But I think it really just gave the younger guys, confidence that, hey, we can play with these guys. The coaches, they knew that we could. I think that game really solidified for a lot of people that, hey, we can compete at the highest level, and I think it just set the precedent for moving forward.
The advancement of the Cardinal program started with the acquisition of talented student athletes. Thorne and his staff have brought in 185 players who've won all conference honors.
He was one of the biggest reasons I decided to come to North Central, and that was because of his philosophy, how he treated people, how he treated his players. We weren't just a number to him. We were family, we were important, and I really sensed that from the first moment I met him.
Coach Thorne, from the day I stepped on campus, has been very demanding. I mean, he is on all of his players. He expects a lot from them, and he holds you to a very high standard. And just, I was able to keep working throughout the JV and then kind of develop each year as my role has grown more and more. And what Coach Thorne has asked of me has changed each year as well, and he's just constantly striving to get every one of his players better and more prepared, and that whole transition has really come full circle.
He wasn't so much concerned with me as an athlete, he was more concerned about who I was as a person. And I think that speaks a lot of his characters for him to go and talk to a 17, 18-year-old kid and talk to him about who you are.
Thorne has always fought for his athletes and their needs, and facilities have been a big part of those efforts. A new locker room was one victory the players will appreciate for years to come.
Certainly physical plant changes and facilities are important as well. The locker room, they fundraise for it with a lot of help, a lot of alums that want to see it better than what they had it. And it is. It's really a great, it really turned out probably better than we might have anticipated. We've already placed the order for all the brand new weight room equipment, the platforms with all brand new equipment, and that's supposed to arrive right around November 17th or so.
He's the kind of guy who doesn't really rest on what he's accomplished. He's always out there fighting for more. So when he says he's going to go out and do something like the locker room, it took a lot of years and a lot of fundraising, but he got it done. He kind of stepped into a program that was already very well established. But I know through my time here that it hasn't always been that case. I've learned how hard coaches have worked at this, and how much the players have put the blood, sweat, and tears to get awesome stuff like this for us.
2013 brought another leap forward for the Cardinals, another undefeated regular season, their 8th consecutive conference title. The Cards cruised through the first 3 rounds of the postseason, leading into one of the most exciting games in school history on the road at Mount Union.
The process was a pretty fun one. It was really enjoyable to go from the year before, when we kind of faltered in the playoffs, to really developing and growing throughout the season. Every game we got better, and it started off we were kind of rocky, but by the time we hit Wheaton, and especially in the playoffs, we were fully going, and we were a good team. We got better each year.
Last year at Mount Union, that big snowstorm, that was like one of the most exciting, fun games I've ever been at. It was in the stands with a lot of the guys that were in those first teams, and it was special, and it was devastating.
And it's, it just speaks to where the program was and where it's headed now. It was tough to lose to Mount Union, even though there's a lot to be said about going head-to-head against, the pinnacle of D3 football. But, that team was so good that there weren't many moral victories. But that just goes to show you that what we expect as a program. We're not satisfied with just getting somewhere. We're always pushing the limits, pushing the boundaries, and trying to take that next step. And that stems from Coach Thorne, as I said before.
Now the Cardinals turn to their new head coach, a familiar face with a similar philosophy. John Thorne's son Jeff has operated the Cardinal offense during the entire 13-year stretch and now accepts the responsibility of continuing what his father has built up at NCC.
You look at it, and if you were an athletic director anywhere in the country at any level, you would say, what are you looking for if you're trying to hire an offensive coordinator? If you could tell someone you're going to average for sure in conference about 42 points a game, I promise you you'd hire him. We want to keep what we have going. And Jeff was being courted by other schools in our conference that wanted him as the head coach and other schools outside of it. And we felt like we need to keep what we have in place. That's our best chance to, And I know Coach Thorne, given all the circumstances, he was prepared to retire. But wanted to make sure that whatever he left it as was at the right place.
And these are good people, and I have nothing but the greatest respect for Coach Thorne and for his son, for the way they do things. I mean, you don't establish what you do over there like that and not do something right. I mean, doing something right, they retain players, they graduate players, they have former players coaching. That tells you something.
Those two coaches believed more in me than I did in myself. Coach John and Coach Jeff saw something in me that I didn't know I had inside. Honestly, they supported me, and they pushed and had me work to get better every single day.
Players past and present say John Thorne has left a mark on them that will remain throughout their lives. They express their gratitude for what their coach has meant to them, both on the field and off it.
I just look around at the success of all of my former teammates and classmates, and every single one of them is at the top of their respected professions. They've all got families. They've all got a lot going on for them. Basically, I think every single one of us that's come out of that program, for the most part, at least the guys that I'm still close with, every single one of us is an All-American in that, right? And I think that's one of the key pieces that I'll always continue to remember.
He always loves to talk about how I transformed over the years, but that's something more of a personal one-on-one moment that we have together. He says, that Nick, he was softer than cotton candy, I believe. He couldn't run through a sheet of paper, but once he left here, he left as a man.
The amount of time he takes on every little detail of special teams and of offense and defense before he was really focusing on special teams, it goes unlooked, unnoticed a little bit, and he's just always prepared. He's a great motivator. He's just, a great coach and a great person.
I think it's just the conversations that we had when I was hurt. Countless numbers of them. Always encouraging me. It was a pretty tough time, but he was always there. I could go into his office, talk to him about anything, and really just encouraging me to that it's going to be all right. You just got to have faith and trust that everything's going to work out, and it did. And I'm really thankful for that.
We're really thankful for that as an institution, that John has carried himself in such a way that when you mention John Thorne, you mention our football program, people think of something very high level, very quality, very clean and good and successful. And so that's a lot of fun.
How it's impacted our alumni and the people that put, like we said earlier, the people that were founding building blocks along the way all those years, from the 90s, from the 80s, from the 70s, from the 60s, and all the way back, they all can take pride of what's happened to this point. And that's a lot to be thankful for.